Has got 2 today. Mac Jones to the back corner. Touchdown, Alabama. And it's DeVonta Smith.
Again. And keep the clock moving. They hand it off to Smith. Beautiful play call. All kinds of running room. And an Alabama touchdown.
The red zone, Alabama with 3 minutes and change remaining in the half. Jones fires to the corner. DeVonta Smith. Touchdown, Alabama. Slot, 2nd down and 9. Mac Jones, pressure coming from behind. The lob to the end zone. DeVonta Smith. Touchdown.
Raving about the way Sark uses his personnel. Using Smith for a touchdown.
HHW Show Podcast returns January 5th with a new season, Road to the Royal Rumble. Hector, Frank, Jason, Ovi will be on the set with the latest news and takeaway. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and you can listen wherever you listen to your favorite podcast app.
Thank you so much for joining us on All Four Downs, part of the CMG Podcast Sports Network. For more, visit clovercrestmedia.com or hhwshow.com. We are approaching the national championship quite quickly. And, of course, Heisman Trophy has been crowned. Let's bring in the boys, Jace Garcia, Sean Scanlon, and Ovi Muniz. Now, I do not have a problem with DeVonta Smith being the Heisman Trophy winner, first wide receiver to win that trophy since 1991. To Smith's credit, he's been very humble in the award. He's very focused on Ohio State at this point. His quarterback, Mac Jones, called him the most electric player in the country, and he certainly isn't wrong. And I mean, everybody knows how I feel, and I'll make my feelings known as far as why I feel Mac Jones got robbed. But I don't want to make this about Mac Jones right now. I do want to make it about DeVonta Smith. You know, my only issue was, you know, up until November 21st, nobody was talking about DeVonta Smith being the Heisman Trophy winner. I didn't see Mac Jones do anything that would have cost it after he jumped over Trevor Lawrence. But look, DeVonta Smith's a great player. He's going to go high in the NFL draft. By all accounts, this guy is going to be a big-time wide receiver in the NFL, and, you know, certainly has had the career to warrant being noted as the, I mean, again, right, 20 touchdowns, SEC single season record. You can't say enough great things about DeVonta Smith. Again, certainly had a quarterback that put the ball in his hands, but this guy's a great playmaker. And if you're talking about who the best player in the country is, it's certainly a name that I think most of us pretty much from the onset thought would have been a contender. I think we're so conditioned, though, guys, to thinking that a wide receiver can't win this, Sean, that, I mean, I guess in my head, this was between Lawrence, Jones, and Trask, if I was being completely honest.
Yeah, and I mean, that's usually how it goes, is that the Heisman usually goes to the best quarterback. Similar to the MVP in the NFL, it usually just goes to the best quarterback. So obviously there was some surprise, first time in 30 years, but like you said, I think it's very well deserved. DeVonta Smith, not just this year, but I mean, his whole career, he's been tremendous. But this year especially, you know, he went above and beyond. He was clearly the best receiver in college football, and I think he proved that he was the best player in college football. Just totally dynamic, great route runner, great after the catch. He could do it in the return game. He just does so many things. He could line up outside or in the slot. So DeVonta Smith, very well deserving. He had a tremendous year. I expect him to have a great game against Ohio State in the national championship, and I expect that to continue into the NFL. But congratulations to DeVonta Smith. It was a great year. But if I have to say one thing, I do think that Mac Jones deserved that second spot instead of Trevor Lawrence. I'm sure that you're a little heated after seeing that, Joe, but I was too. I think that Mac Jones, obviously, he had a better year than Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence missed the 2 games, and they were clearly the best team in college football. So I do think that Mac Jones deservedly should have had that number 2 spot.
Yeah, let me carry on that one also. And this is something that, Joe, you've been saying this for with your debates with Jace about the award goes to the individual for that particular season. It is not an overall achievement. It's what you have done this season. And in my opinion, I think Mac Jones deserved to be the top quarterback in the National Football League and the NCAA. All right. People got to recognize that, look, I know he has all the firepower and everything else. These guys that are going to be NFL bound, but Jones' accuracy is on point. No matter how open they were or how tight the window is, he was able to distribute the ball. Am I right, Joe?
I mean, 1,000% again. Look, Mac went into the season, and I want to make this about Mac Jones because I'm going to end the show, honestly, on a Mac rampage. I'll say this. Look, there was question whether he was going to be the starter this season. Or whether that true freshman, like 5-star stud they brought in was gonna outdo him. So, Chase, let me ask you this. Let me ask you if you buy into the idea that there's been so many Rex Grossmans and guys, Colt McCoy, guys who had great seasons in college that won the Heisman and then went to the NFL and played like garbage. How much of the motivation here to give the award to DeVonta Smith is this guy's going to be an NFL stud? And we're still not sure about Mac Jones. So what do you think?
I think there is a little bit to be said with that. But also, I mean, if DeVonta Smith did not win it this year, no other wide receiver, they would have to average 500 receiving yards a game to win it if DeVonta Smith didn't. He put the team on his back. And I mean, DeVonta Smith, he is the best wide receiver prospect, I think, since Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones. I mean, in a team that was stacked last year, he led the Alabama in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. And now this year, I mean, he's got less weapons. And now we saw he's got less weapons around him, and which is why he had such a stellar year. Because Mac Jones was all like, I got my guy. That's my guy. I'm going to him. I do think a little bit of the NFL has to do with it, and a little bit of that people have to be all like, okay, I mean, when does it turn from the Heisman to the Heisman Quarterback Award,
So, Sean, I think if you negate all the ridiculous stuff he just said there, he made 2 points. He talked about last year, and he obviously he doesn't know what the word putting a team on your back is, because DeVonta Smith didn't put Alabama on his back. That's not true. You could make the argument Najee Harris was the Heisman Trophy winner. He came in 5th. You could argue it was Mac Jones who came in 3rd. The idea that anybody there put anything on their back is absurd. Am I right, Sean?
I can see what you're saying. Just because it was a team job. Obviously, they all did it together. Najee Harris had a great year. Mac Jones was tremendous, and not just DeVonta Smith, but obviously Waddle before he got hurt, and John Mechie, who had a great year. And you can't say all that without mentioning the offensive line, who is absolutely dominant in pass protection and running the ball. But I think it obviously is a team effort. We see that with the whole Alabama squad. It's not just one guy that could beat you. It's all 11 of them. So I think that he didn't necessarily put his team on the back for the season, I would say. But I agree with Jason's statement that there were some games where the opposing defense knew where the ball was going. They could have double covered DeVonta Smith, and it still didn't matter because he was getting the job done. So in that sense, I do agree that DeVonta Smith took over some games and absolutely put the team on his back. But you have to keep in mind, Mac Jones is the one throwing him the ball. He does have to put the ball in the right spot. So it definitely is a team effort. But if if you have a player that's that wide open, I think you could consider him putting the team in the back. But I would agree that not for the whole season though.
Right. Well, especially that game where Devontae Smith had 3 catches for 22 yards. That game definitely doesn't count as any of the games where he might have carried anything. Am I right, Ovi?
But yeah, if you look at every other game, though, that's his only one stinker. The only one even close to.
Well, Sean, it's funny you say that. I mean, obviously, everybody knows how I feel about Mac Jones. But you know what, Shawnee, when I put their numbers up against each other, more than half the touchdowns, about half the yards, did all go to Devontae Smith, as did, I think, about a third of his completions. So certainly the weapon. But again, I don't like the argument. And again, I'll get into this at the end of the show when I do my thing. I don't like the idea, and I remember last year with Tua, it was the same stupid nonsense where it's like he's got all these weapons around him. Of course, I mean, having weapons around you doesn't automatically mean that you're going to complete 77% of your passes. I mean, you still have to throw the ball, as Sean said. You still have to put it where it needs to be. And my only other thing about Devontae Smith is I pointed out week after week after week, it's not like he was making one-handed diving catches into the end zone. It was always
he did against LSU.
The one time is that your example? That one time it happened
well,
because I'm just saying the other 19 were right in his hands.
Well,
you doesn't do anything.
The only reason I said it is because you perfectly described how the catch went. It was one-handed falling back into the back of the end zone. So
right, the one time out of 20 where he had to do something like tough. Again, I love Devontae Smith. I hate the idea that I don't even want to talk about Mac Jones anymore about it. I really don't. Devontae Smith deserved the award. Devontae Smith is for anybody who's like Jamar Chase. Get over yourself.
Oh my God! I mean, he didn't even do anything this year.
This is where we get this like, oh no, it's definitely that guy. Definitely that guy. Well, that guy didn't do anything this year.
He didn't play. Yeah, capped it out.
But I'll tell you this:
Jalen Waddle missed most of the year. How could anybody logically be like, well, they're better than Devontae Smith? You're a moron if you think that.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll see what Devontae Smith can do because in his speech he said, and his interviews, that he's not really concentrating on winning now. It's just more his mindset on the national championship. And as we move on forward here, January 11th will be the national title, Alabama versus Ohio State. And I do have a special guest for this segment, and it is one of the Keys brothers. Hey, welcome, Trevor. And I'm going to be the first one to admit, and I'm going to put this on screen for the both of us, and I'm going to tell you right now, and that in front of everybody, and I just want to Adam, too, he is also an Ohio State fan. I'm going to say, I apologize, okay? You heard it from me. I'm manning up.
But what did I also say? I also said the job is not finished. As the great Kobe Bryant once said after being up 2-0 against the Boston Celtics, job's not finished. Ain't nothing to be happy about. Yeah, we beat Clemson. It was an unbelievable game. They played the perfect game, and that's what happens when you play perfection. We get a score like that. You get a game like that. Justin Fields was the better quarterback that night. They were the better team that night. We don't know what's going to happen Monday night. It could be a different outcome. But the job is not finished, plain and simple. We still have jobs. We still have unfinished business. And we got 60 minutes away from winning another championship.
Unfinished business. A lot is on the stake right now. The final 2 teams. And
I got to see what you.
No. You know, I'm glad you threw me off here for a minute because it allowed me. Listen, let me just clear up because I mean, again, I feel like basic comprehension is something everyone seems to struggle with because I said repeatedly, over and over again, that Ohio State didn't deserve to be there, not because they weren't good enough, because they didn't play enough games as per the friggin' rules. But suddenly the rules don't matter anymore, do they? I said if anybody deserves to be an exception to the rule, it was Ohio State. So this wasn't a question of could Ohio State beat any. That had nothing to do with what I said. So nobody misquote me on that. You're supposed to play more than 6 games. That's the rule. Plain and simple. I can't be any clearer about it. Did it surprise me Ohio State won? No, absolutely not. They're a good team. I talked at the end of last week's episode about how all of the 5-star recruits are going to these 3 schools and nowhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, they're going to be a national. Well, of course, they would have the talent to do it. What I said was Cincinnati and teams like that deserve it because they played a full season. That was what I said. So, as long as everybody understands the words that I've said now, I'm not going to be misquoted again. That said, Ohio State's going to get their ass handed to them by Alabama. Yeah!
There you go. Come on, baby. Roll Buckeyes. I love it. Come on. Come on. Give me a 50-0 score. Come on. I want to hear all you guys.
Hey, not for nothing. I've been saying Trevor Lawrence is a bum for a while now.
Oh yeah. You're the one guy in the entire world that thinks that thing.
Who's more anti Trevor Lawrence than I am? Honestly, because everybody else is slurping him up.
Ohio State fans.
I'll tell you what, these two guys right here
are hot for Trevor Lawrence.
These two guys here are one
MVP. Hey,
not me.
I gotta say,
well, these two guys won MVP at their respective bowl games, and they're gonna go face to face, 1-on-1. And I'm gonna start with you, Sean. What is your prediction in this game? Who do you take that's gonna win it?
I'm going to stick with the number 1 team in the country here with Alabama. Even though I will say Ohio State, I wasn't entirely surprised that they won, but I was very surprised in the way that they did it. They completely embarrassed Clemson all day long. The offensive line was getting a massive push up front. Trey Sermon was running the ball 10, 15 yards downfield without even getting contacted. So, I mean, if they can continue to run the ball that way, and obviously Justin Fields with his 6 touchdowns, hopefully his rib will be good for the game after taking that big shot from James Skalski. But I think Ohio State can definitely contend in this game. I think they could definitely score with Alabama and their explosive offense. But I do think that Alabama will pull it out late. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game. And I think Alabama will pull out a couple stops late to stop Justin Fields in the Ohio State offense. But like I said, I see it being really high scoring. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets into the 40s. So I'm going to go ahead and say Alabama wins this one by a score of 42-31. But I think it's going to be an instant classic. I think it's going to be a whole lot of offense. And I'm definitely really excited to watch this one because there's going to be some fireworks on the field all Monday night.
All right. Hey, Jace, you're up. These two guys that I've had on the screen, both of them MVPs. Do you feel like these two guys, one of them will be MVP of the national championship? And if not, who you think is going to be?
100% Devontae Smith is going to be MVP of the national championship. Is it deserving? I don't necessarily know. He's probably going to put up some numbers because Ohio State's defense isn't that good. I will eat my words. I thought Clemson was on the level of Alabama. They're not. They're on that level of Ohio State. They're that tier down. But I'm telling you right now, I'm telling you, screw the Buckeyes. Let's go. Alabama's going to win by 1 million. Let's go. Roll Tide, baby.
I don't know how I could take you seriously right now when you have our University of Utah shirt underneath that with the New York Giants hat, and you're calling out that Alabama's going to win. I don't know, man. I don't know what you're doing, man. I really don't. But your counterpart, your rival here, he's going to tell you his answer, and he's going to tell you why. So by all means, go right ahead.
So you said the score by 1 million? Sounds like the New York Giants beating the Cincinnati Bengals by 44-0. Give me a realistic game. Give me something realistic. Okay. Look, the best player that's going to be on the field is the way the Ohio State Buckeyes are even in this college football playoff, and it's number 8. It's not Justin Fields. Justin Fields, we're lucky that he had an amazing game in the Sugar Bowl. But we're also extremely lucky that Trey Sermon had a Ohio State record, Big Ten record, 331 yards against the Northwestern Wildcats. Because if it wasn't for that game, guess what? We wouldn't be talking about Ohio State. We'd be talking about Clemson versus Alabama again. That's who's going to be the best player on the field for Ohio State and in this game because he's been leading them. And it's kind of very similar to a Ezekiel Elliott run. Anybody, come on. We remember what Ezekiel Elliott did that last couple games of the year they won the first college football playoff. He was the best player on the field. Trey Sermon has been the best player in both of those games still, And as you can see, when Trey Sermon in that running game is going, look what the let's look what the passing attack can do. Justin Fields, we all thought, man, is he going to be the number 2 pick? Now all of a sudden we're thinking, oh man, is Justin Fields? Are the Jets going to draft Justin Fields all of a sudden? Look what one game can do. That's what a great running attack can do. The offensive line was amazing. Like I said to you, Ovi, they played a perfect game against Clemson. That's why they won by the way they did. That's what perfection looks like. Great defense. Everybody said the defense was sloppy. That's fine. They weren't good this year. They haven't been the Ohio State defense of past. But guess what? They played their perfect game. No one gave them a chance. No one's going to give them a chance on Monday night, and that's fine. I like the underdog. I always like the underdog, and that's what's going to happen again. You know who I'm picking. It's going to be Roll Buckeyes. The Buckeyes are going to win again, the second championship in the college football playoff, because I feel like, and everybody here's the thing about Alabama. I know Alabama's amazing offensively, but this isn't a 2008 Alabama defense. This defense is very suspect. You saw with Kyle Trask. And if Notre Dame could have got something going in the Rose Bowl game, we could be talking about a whole different story. But their offense was that bad. And that's all I got to say. It was only 31-14. I know it was a late touchdown and stuff, and they dominated. But still, that defense is suspect. It's not the great Alabama defensive pass. And this game is wide open offensively because you got Justin Fields, you got Devontae Smith, you got Mac Jones, you got possibly, and that could be the major X factor, if Jalen Waddle plays, boy, that could be very, very scary for Ohio State to match up with because we've already seen what Devontae Smith could do alone. Boy, oh boy, you get Jalen Waddle back and Devontae Smith, it could be a long night, but I'm still sticking with my Buckeyes. I can't wait for this game. I've been excited since the college football semifinal game. I'm excited for it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I did write a comparison, both Alabama and Ohio State. You can check it out on clovercrestmedia.com. I wrote an article about it. Back in 2014, as my boy Adam is telling me, he is from Alabama, but an Ohio State Buckeye fan. And my former classmate from New Britain, Connecticut.
Okay.
He
roll Buckeye, Adam. Roll Buckeye.
The thing is that when Urban Meyer was with Ohio State, right, they had that dual threat with Cordell Jones, who was the backup quarterback, right, and Zeke Elliott was the running back, and they ran the ball multiple times, and that made Nick Saban to get some more defense. He needed more bodies. He needed speed in the defense, and I think he has done that already. But you're right. The game against Florida, the defense was a little bit suspect there, even though they came out with a win. They got enough time to be planning to see what they're going to do. But the only difference on this one is Ohio State has 3 people. Okay, you forgot one other guy, and that's if he's going to play. That's Master Teague. I don't know if you mentioned him. But here's another threat in the running back.
Sermon has been, Master Teague's there, but Trey Sermon's the focal point.
But listen, if this is your last game, you're going to throw everything at him. You know what I'm saying? So you have that. But on the other side, we really haven't seen much of Ohio State. Remember, they only played 6 games before the semifinals. They didn't look great against Indiana. You know what I'm saying? So with that passing power offense that Alabama has, one's got to wonder who's going to have the advantage. So it's a toss-up.
As Ric Flair once said, if you want to beat the man, if you want to be the man, I should say, you got to beat the man. And we all know that Alabama and Clemson have been running with Ohio State, maybe right below them, have been running college football for the past, 6-7 years, plain and simple. Hey, guess what? If you want to beat the best, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, plain and simple.
Well, Joe, let me ask you this, Joe. What is your pick, Joe?
Now you got to go get the freaking part 2.
Well, Ric Flair also said this: "Roll Tide, roll." Woo! My pick.
What do you want? Come on, Coastal Carolina, roll Carolina and Bearcats.
I'll tell you right now, Alabama is going to absolutely bring Ohio State back to light and back to reality. I'll say this about Ohio State's win last week: that was great, and here's what Clemson has not had in a long time: a game where they got tested. I mean, like really tested by somebody, and it showed. They would have gotten destroyed by Alabama. So it's just as well that it happened to Ohio State, because at least Ohio State, who's been getting tested all year, Trevor, to their credit, I mean, this team hasn't won any easy games until literally Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, getting hot at the right time. It's exactly what you want. Being tested, having to win close games. But because Justin Fields wasn't winning 45-0, he sucks now, and Ohio State's not good enough, which, again, is never anything that I said. So, I'm so glad that Ohio State lit Clemson up. Because I think Dabo Sweeney's an idiot, such an idiot. I mean, don't the Dan Mullins and Dabos, don't they just start to wear on your nerves when they just run their idiotic mouths and just say stupid stuff?
And you know, when you say stupid stuff, you lose the game.
I desperately tried to rank Clemson 11th in my final poll, and I could only get them to 9th. And still look myself in the eyes and feel good about it. So I put him 9th. If I could have justified 11th, I would have. If Coastal Carolina had won, that would have been a team that would have been in front of Clemson as far as I'm concerned.
Hold on, Joe. One question. Who was the 8 in front of them? I want to hear this.
Yeah, what?
If they were 9 on your final poll, who was your top 8 then?
Yeah, you had Clemson 9.
I had Clemson.
Who the hell
9.
are you putting over? You're not putting over any of the teams.
I put Bama.
Oh yeah.
Ohio State, A&M, Oklahoma, Notre Dame,
hell no,
Cincinnati, Georgia. I had both of them ahead of them.
Cincinnati over Georgia?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I had Cincinnati and Georgia. I think I did.
Ohio State
I did. I'd have to look it up.
Well, hold on for a second. Since we're already ahead of the game here, well, let's go recap everything else on the show that's happening before we move on. But hey, we'll take a short break and then we'll get through all these rankings in just a bit. Stand by.
HHW Show Podcast returns January 5th with a new season, Road to the Royal Rumble. Hector, Frank, Jason Ovi will be on the set with the latest news and takeaway. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and you can listen wherever you listen to your favorite podcast app.
And as we continue with the All Four Downs podcast, the Capital One Bowl Mania is coming to the end. And I got to say thank you everybody for participating in our league, the All Four Downs podcast. But it narrows it down to just 2 people. And I purposely have not spoken who's going to win the game. And by purpose, I know my counterpart, Hector Vasquez, who also is the host of the HHW show, he's listening in, and I'm not giving him any chance. All right, any hints or whatsoever who I'm going for, because it goes down national championship. We're both in a tie. We have a 92% percentile of our what's that called? Of our win percentage. There you go. So, hey, to Hector, I know you're listening in. Hey, thank you for the competition, but I was definitely going to beat you. All right, I'm getting you. I'm just not going to tell you yet until the kickoff time. But hey, also shout out to Justin from R&J Show. He finished in 3rd, and then everybody else. Well, hey, it is what it is. Sorry, guys, but hey, the champ is here. All right. And speaking about the rankings that we were discussing earlier, overall, all 4 downs, the panel of 6 people went ahead and voted. The top 2 is automatic. Alabama, Ohio State, they're playing for that number 1 spot. But we have Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, Cincinnati, Iowa State, and BYU in the top 10. And you can see everybody else falling into place. Now, to me, and on this list right here, and I'm going to tell you right now, I did not vote for USC. I don't think they were that good enough. And besides them chicken out of a bowl game to make their excuses and everything else, it is what it is. But I give respect to the 2 teams, and one of them is Oregon, for actually playing a bowl game. So hats off to you. I don't know which Pac-12 was supposed to play Army in the Independence Bowl, but they didn't want to play. And I'm glad that Army went on to play against West Virginia, which was a hell of a game, even though they came up with an L. But more props. Thank you for West Virginia to supporting our troops, our future leaders in a battlefield. Joe, the top 4, especially looking in for next season, do you think Oklahoma got a good chance there to represent the Big 12 the way they play against Florida, even though it's a JV team?
I was a doubter of Oklahoma pretty much all year, and all they kept doing was winning. And I thought they played better later in the year than they did while they were winning all their games in the middle of the year. So, I like the way Oklahoma looks. I had Oklahoma 5th in my final rankings. I didn't have Cincinnati ahead of Clemson, by the way. My list was after the big two, Notre Dame, A&M, Oklahoma, Florida, Georgia, and Iowa State. And then I had Clemson at number 9.
That's terrible.
Iowa State has 2 losses.
I mean, listen. Clemson got lit up on national TV.
By the second best team in the country.
I don't care. They're supposed to be the best team in the country.
Yes,
I did it. I mean, in protest to Dabo Sweeney's idiotic statement.
Well, we can't be biased here. We
can be biased. That's why we do a show.
Bias.
I decided to penalize Clemson because their coach is an ass.
Then you
I can do that. That's my choice. I put Florida, who I can't stand, ahead of them. That's all you need to know.
That's terrible.
I'll tell you what, we could go on the show and Divided We Stand and talk about it, or I'll pitch you off shortly, and we could debate about all these coaches, how much you hate about them. Okay. But,
I mean, listen. At the end of the day, Ov, you know what? You're in charge of like 18 to 22-year-old men. Absolutely. And when you're like 55 and you act like an idiot, I mean, what are you teaching these guys? And these idiot boosters, are these the clowns you want representing your schools? I don't. Lou Holtz is a raving maniac lunatic now. I mean, he's so far gone from reality. But back in the day, that's a head coach. That's the kind of guy you looked at. You're like, oh, father figure. You know, nobody knew what a raving lunatic racist he was inside. He seemed so nice at the time. He was all cuddly and sweet and frail. You know, he looked like Popeye. That was cute. People liked it. Be a coach like that. Like, quote John Wooden and stuff. Stop running your mouth, Dan Mullins and Dabo Sweeney. Stop being such idiots. You're raising a generation of narcissists anyway. Don't encourage their behavior by acting like a grown-up idiot.
Hey, Trevor,
I can't do it anymore.
Trevor, do me a favor. I want you to look to your left. Can you do that?
My left?
Yes, your left. Now, extend your arms out. No, the other way, knucklehead. Yeah, that's your left. And I want you to reach out and give him an air hug to Joe. Can you do that for me?
Yeah, Joe's a little angry today.
He needs some loving.
He's just pissed off.
You should be happy. You're sporting a nice hoodie over there.
Yeah. Thanks. Oh no, my hoodie. Yeah.
Hold on. So I never even gave a score for the national championship.
I want my Christmas present, Trevor. By the way, I want one.
So I got a score quickly of Ohio State 41-33. I didn't give a score. So I got 41-33.
Okay. I got a score too, but I'll wait till Sunday. Monday.
Is that halftime?
January 11th.
Is that the halftime score? And then Bama scores 9 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and wins the game 7.
And then they win 1,000,000 according to
yeah.
Well, hey, I got 2 stories for you guys. Ready? I got 2. So after the national championship, we could discuss the NFL draft 2021, which is going to be taking place in April 29th. Okay. And look at here. We have the Jackson Jaguars who clinched overall the first round, the first pick. Okay. But what's so fascinating about this is that the Miami Dolphins get to pick twice within the first 18 picks. So they already set up for success here. But with that in mind, we have, which everyone's already talking about, is that Jacksonville Jaguars, which fired their head coach. Who knows who's going to be the guy, whether it's Urban Myers or anybody else. But this guy here is going to be the first rounder. Trevor Lawrence, number 1, Jacksonville Jaguars. How do you guys feel about that?
Jacksonville, don't overthink it. Plain and simple. Draft Trevor Lawrence and get the right coach for him. Plain and simple. Go after Eric Bieniemy. Don't go after this is the thing that annoys me. I want to first say something. Stop going after older guys. And I've told Joe this. Stop going after older coaches. Just like I feel with the presidency, stop getting the same old people. We need a young person. Just like these head coaches. Dick Vermeil. Oh, Joe, how do you feel about this? Mike Glennon's going to be gone. But no, serious, all kidding aside, Jacksonville, don't overthink this. Trevor Lawrence is the guy. He's been talked about for years now being the number 1 pick. Please don't even I'm a big Justin Fields fan. You got to take Trevor Lawrence. He's like the John Elway, the Andrew Luck. He's that type of prospect, can't miss prospect. Don't overthink it. Get the right coach for him. And the Jacksonville Jaguars could be in some serious contention in the AFC next year just with a head coach and a quarterback like him. Not Mike Glennon. Sorry, Joe.
That's not true. They're going to need 11 starters on defense and a better offensive line.
The AFC's wide open. Their division still is wide open, too. I mean, Texans have their issues. The Colts.
As a guy who watched 10 of the Jaguars games in their entirety, I can promise you Trevor Lawrence is going to be nice, and it'll sell some tickets, which they desperately need. But it's going to be a 2-14 first season. And I'm saying it's nice that Trevor Lawrence got embarrassed on national TV because he better get used to losing because he's going to face a whole season of it next year. Certainly deserves to be the number 1 pick. I will tell you this, and I joked about it all year on John about the G-Man and on Keys to the City. I've got all of Jacksonville's wide receivers on my fantasy team. I don't know why. It's the way it worked out. They're pretty good receivers. I'm telling you right now, this guy throwing to that group, boy, there's some talent there. The Jaguars didn't struggle to score points this year. They struggled to score more points than the other teams.
They're going to have a lot. Here's the thing that I want to come in with you, Joe, and sorry for the others. They're going to have a lot of cap, and people are going to be excited to go. Jacksonville becomes a very intriguing place now with Trevor Lawrence looks like the surefire number 1 pick, and you get the right coach, like I said, in Eric Bieniemy. That becomes a very, very nice destination. Plus, it's in Florida. It's beautiful. You get the no state income tax. I mean, it's all pluses. I'm just saying that Jacksonville.
Their owner is an idiot, though.
Huh?
Their owner's an idiot and has medicine.
I want to know if Joe has a list of idiots or somewhere in his room, like a checklist, and be like, he's an idiot. He just made my list. Sound like
Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho when he was with WWE.
You made the list. That's what
I have a notebook that I keep where all day long I identify idiots, I break down why they're an idiot, and then I come up with solutions to cure their idiocracy.
But I got a good one for Sean, though. Besides the Jacksonville Jaguars, which, by the way, they are playing the AFC East and the NFC West in next season's schedule. So if he does start, he's going to be challenged in every game. But for pick number 2 and 27 for the New York Jets, Sean, do you think for pick number 2, Zach Wilson or Travis Etienne? What do you think?
For the second overall pick, Travis Etienne? I don't think they should be anywhere near that. Oh, yeah. For pick number 2, I think, they should. I don't know. I think they should go QB because I think Justin Fields is going to be a lot better player than Sam Darnold is in the NFL. I think they should try to trade away Sam Darnold because it's not like Sam Darnold's terrible. He's just been in a terrible situation with Adam Gase. No receivers, a terrible O-line. So I think he could have some success in the NFL. I just think he needs a new place to go. But I think Justin Fields would make the most sense. I think obviously he's mobile. He's got a super strong arm. And I think that he is the second best prospect behind Trevor Lawrence. But the Jets, it's not just QB that they need, though. They need help really from everywhere. Their secondary is god-awful. They have no pass rush. Their offensive line is still a work in progress, and they have no receivers. So the Jets is going to be a total rebuild. I wouldn't be surprised if they go receiver, honestly, just because it's such a wide draft for them. Some of the best receivers are only Jameson Crowder and Denzel Mims, which in today's NFL is not getting the job done. So they definitely got to go with offense, but at the same time, they need help on defense. So it's they have a whole laundry list of needs for sure. But we'll see where they go first. But I wouldn't be surprised if they go Justin Fields at 2.
So let me ask Sean. Let me ask Sean for a quick. Since you were saying all that about the Jets, so I've been saying this. I think the best bet for the New York Jets at number 2 is to trade back because you look at that top 10 right now. There's a lot of quarterback needed teams, and how quarterbacks are so valuable. You could get a boatload of draft picks. Plus, you could possibly have maybe 3 first-round picks this year, plus next year, another couple second rounds or thirds. I mean, I know a quarterback is nice to have. Sam Darnold, maybe they're thinking moving on from here, depending on who the head coach is going to be. But for a team that has so many glaring holes, and I even said this, even with Trevor Lawrence, even they got the number 1 pick, Trevor Lawrence wasn't just going to come in and all of a sudden the Jets were going to be a playoff team. Like they weren't going to go like 8-8, 9-7. I would say the best bet for the New York Jets to seriously consider, if you want to think about the future, is to trade back and pick up draft assets. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, but what would you think?
I don't hate that at all. I think that makes a lot of sense because, like I was saying about Sam Darnold, I really don't think he's a terrible quarterback. I think he's just in a bad situation. But if they're able to help that offense out a lot in the first year, I mean, Mekhi Becton, who they drafted last year in the first round, he's been tremendous. Yep. Say they trade back, get Penei Sewell, and they have two tackles for the next 15 years. I mean, that will set up Sam Darnold with so much help. That you can get running backs really anywhere in the draft with value. You can get them in the 3rd or 4th round. So get them a good running back. Get those 2 tackles up front, and then try and go from there. And then you're going to just build up more and more assets with the picks that you trade back. So that does make a lot of sense. I think that'd be pretty smart for the Jets to do too.
It makes so much sense, but you know what happens when it makes too much sense?
They don't do it. Of course they won't.
Yeah, it is the Jets, though. We got to remember this.
Right. But hey, check this out. This is a potential. This is not official, but the experts say that the draft may end up being this way. Okay, with Trevor Lawrence being 1, Wilson. If I'm saying his name right, Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell, Pennell, whatever. But I do like. I've been saying this from my picks, and you can catch it at hswshow.com and clovercrestmedia.com. Is that I'm like 99% sure Justin Fields will end up being in an Atlanta Falcons. I really do.
I can see that happening too.
Yeah. Out of everything here now, as far as wide receivers and everything else, that's just hey, you don't know what's going to happen in free agency for these guys to make their picks. So we just have to wait and see. But more to follow on that. Also, next season, the schedule, non-conferences, and we're only focusing on the top 4. Notre Dame already has a full schedule.
Mercer, watch out, kids.
But UConn will visit Clemson. Yes. And if you guys know, UConn is now independent. They would have been playing independent this year, but they can't because of COVID. But I mean, besides UConn is also playing my team, Army. So I can't wait to catch that game. But it was fascinating to see UConn playing Clemson this year. So can't wait. Maybe UConn could actually score maybe a field goal. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully they're better than last year. But for Alabama, they're playing Miami. That's a solid game. For Clemson, they're playing Georgia and a neutral site in Charlotte, North Carolina. Ohio State's playing Oregon. We'll see what type of game and see if they're ranked during that time that they meet. But they're also playing Tulsa and Akron. I hear Akron is probably a Division III team. I don't know.
They're terrible.
Akron's in the Akron. You never heard of?
No, they're in the MAC. They're
the worst team in the MAC.
Right. But Notre Dame. What's so fast about Notre Dame is they're playing Florida State. Their first game. They're also playing Wisconsin, Cincinnati. They're not dodging any bullets. They do have a hard schedule for next season. So again, they're potentially if they're successful, they could potentially be in the top 4 again and maybe have a better performance of this year. But we'll have to wait and see.
If you remember, Ohio State was supposed to play Oregon this year. That was one of the games that got canceled. So I'm looking forward to a big game like that. Another Pac-12 game. Another Pac-12 disappointment, right, Jace?
Quack, quack, quack.
Even though I do like Oregon. But Pac-12 is
Pac-12's been all of a sudden they had a terrible
Huh? What'd you say?
I said more like the LAC-12. Very lacking lately. Hasn't been very good.
It's a good nickname.
I like that.
I like it. I do.
Creative.
That is.
Well,
I like it. Let's trade
you what. What
Very
I'm
much.
gonna like is after the season that whoever I choose and pick actually wins, and I win my Bowmania challenge. So Hector, if you're watching,
But
I
don't
got
you
you,
still
brother.
lose-
I
still
got
lose
you.
if Ohio State wins the national championship?
Say what?
Don't you still lose because Ohio State wins because you've been
I
bashing
did
them?
not tell you who I'm picking. I did
What
not
the hell
tell
do you
you.
mean? You're not going to tell us. We all got to tell you, but you can't tell us. What is
Oh
this?
no!
A suspenseful
What,
pick?
did you not pay attention to the show? You're on my show. You don't even know what I just said. I
Ooh,
can't
he
pick
just said,
because
he just
Hector
said
and I
it's
are
his
tied.
show, boys. He just called
And
it real controversy. He just said it's his show. How you feel about
there we go. Anyway, thank you for
We
listening.
don't question it, Trevor. That's why we get to stay on it.
that?
However, this concludes our show. It was Last Down, and thank you guys for being on the show. Joe, you got the final whistle, my friend.
Well, thank you. Congratulations to Devontae Smith, who became just the third Alabama player ever to win the Heisman Trophy and also the first receiver to win it since Michigan's Desmond Howard in 1991. And Smith beat out three other finalists, all of whom were quarterbacks. Alabama's Mac Jones, Clemson's Trevor Lawrence, and Florida's Kyle Trask. Now, I don't have any issue with Smith winning this award. I said it during the show. I'll say it again. Smith's great. He's certainly deserving of it. My bigger issue is the guy who came in second, Trevor Lawrence. If you hold up Trev's numbers to Mac Jones' numbers, it's clear the fix was in here. And I think there's college writers who clearly feared that voting for Mac Jones over Trevor Lawrence somehow meant that they think Jones is the better quarterback or the better talent with more NFL upside. And of course, it doesn't mean anything of the sort. Lawrence will be a superstar in the NFL. And Jones, as he did in college, will more than likely be a game manager in the NFL. But that's not what we're talking about here. Devontae Smith didn't even show up on the Heisman watch until November 21st. Mac Jones was there from day one, right through the end of the season. The mighty Trevor Lawrence actually fell out of the top five, you'll recall, after he dealt with COVID and his team lost. Now, I'd argue if Mac wasn't so good, Smith wouldn't have had any chance to win the award. Mac Jones went for 4,036 yards this season, first-time quarterback ever to hit the 4,000-yard mark in a single season. He averaged 336.8 per game. His 77% completion percentage led the NCAA. And oh, by the way, he set a school record with 4 games over 400 yards. And, well, unlike Trevor's team, not Trevor Keys, but Trevor Lawrence, he didn't lose a game all year. Through 12 games, Jones has a 203.03 passer efficiency rating. He's on pace to break Joe Burrow's NCAA single-season record. The Alabama quarterback's 77% completion rate will also break the single-season mark set by Colt McCoy back in 2008. If you watched the game against Notre Dame, you watched Mac Jones pick it apart, 25 out of 30, 4 touchdowns, and a 210.5 quarterback efficiency rating. The 7th time this year with 4 more touchdowns, the 6th time he had a passer rating of 200 or higher, and the 4th time this season he completed more than 80% of his passes in a game against the best competition in all of college football. The biggest criticism against Mac Jones is the same bullcrap that Tua faced last year. There's so much talent around him. Nonsense. You still have to throw the ball accurately. Not surprisingly, Mac Jones won the Johnny Unitas Award as the nation's best quarterback. And yes, he obviously finished ahead of Trevor Lawrence for that award. Of course, when it comes to the Heisman, apparently, Mac Jones just wasn't a sexy enough pick. Perhaps he should have grown out his hair. Thank you so much for joining us on All 4 Downs, part of the Clovercrest Media Group Sports Network. For more, visit clovercrestmedia.com. You can also visit hhwshow.com to get all the latest on college and all professional sports. We appreciate you so much. Make sure you enjoy that national championship game, and we'll catch you back here next Wednesday night at 7:30 for All 4 Downs.
that.